Have you ever wondered how to survive in the forest with a camouflaged shelter? If you've pondered this, you're not alone. In fact, the art of camouflage is a crucial skill when it comes to survival in the wild. Now, why is that? First, let's consider the wildlife. A well-camouflaged shelter can serve as an invisible shield, keeping you safe from curious or potentially dangerous animals. It's like wearing an invisibility cloak in the world of beasts. Secondly, weather. A camouflaged shelter seamlessly blends with the natural environment, offering protection against harsh elements like wind, rain, or snow. It's your personal fortress against Mother Nature's whims. And don't forget privacy. In survival scenarios, maintaining a low profile can be key. A camouflaged shelter provides that, keeping you out of sight from prying eyes. Now that we understand the importance of camouflage, let's dive into how to create this vital survival tool. The first step in creating a camouflaged shelter is finding the right location. Now, this isn't as simple as it sounds. It's not just about finding a flat piece of land and setting up camp. Oh no, there are several factors to consider when selecting the perfect spot. Firstly, consider the proximity to water resources. You'll need water for drinking, cooking, and possibly for navigation. However, don't set up too close to water sources as they tend to attract other animals, and in some cases, can lead to increased exposure to insects. Secondly, think about visibility. You want to be hidden from potential threats, but you also want to be able to see what's coming. Look for a spot that's tucked away, but still offers a decent view of your surroundings. Remember, your shelter should blend into the landscape, not stand out. Lastly, consider the availability of materials. You'll need a good supply of sticks, leaves, and other natural materials for building and camouflaging your shelter. An area with dense vegetation is usually a good bet. But remember, you don't want to strip an area bare. The goal is to live in harmony with nature, not against it. With the perfect spot chosen, it's time to gather the materials. But that's a story for our next scene. Until then, keep these tips in mind as you scout your next wilderness hideaway. The forest is full of resources if you know where to look. Welcome back, and let's dive right into the heart of our shelter building adventure. The third step in our survival journey is gathering the materials. Now, the forest is much like a supermarket, stocked with everything you need to construct a sturdy, long-lasting shelter. All you need to do is know what to look for and where. To start with, the backbone of your shelter will be the branches. You want to look for strong, sturdy branches, preferably deadwood lying on the forest floor. Avoid cutting down live trees, as this can harm the environment and disrupt the natural ecosystem. Next up, we need leaves. Lots and lots of leaves. They will serve as the insulation to keep you warm and dry. When gathering leaves, keep an eye out for large, broad ones. They are excellent for providing coverage and insulation. And remember, just like with the branches, we're looking for fallen leaves, not plucking fresh ones off the trees. Now let's talk about vines. They are the natural duct tape of the forest. Vines are excellent for binding your branches together. Look for strong, flexible vines, but again, be mindful of their source. We want to avoid damaging living plants, so look for loose or already fallen vines. Apart from these, you might also want to gather some rocks or stones. They can add stability to your shelter and can also be used to create a fire ring for warmth and cooking. Remember, while we are in survival mode, we must also respect the environment we are in. It's about coexisting with nature, not conquering it. We want to leave as little impact as possible. So, gather mindfully and use only what you need. Now, once you have gathered all your materials, you've won half the battle. You've got the ingredients, and now we're ready to start cooking up our shelter. With materials in hand, the construction can begin. A sturdy shelter is a foundation of survival. It's a statement that rings true whether you're in the heart of a dense forest or stranded on a deserted island. So let's delve into the process of constructing a robust, long-lasting shelter. First things first, you'll need to create a strong backbone for your shelter. This starts with finding 2 sturdy trees close enough to each other to prop up your ridgepole. The ridgepole is the long piece of wood that will run between the 2 trees and act as the main support for your shelter. Next, lean smaller branches against the ridgepole to form a sort of rib cage. These branches should be sturdy enough to support the weight of the covering material without bending or breaking. Space them out evenly and ensure they're anchored firmly to the ground. Now that you've got the skeleton of your shelter, it's time to add the skin. You'll do this by layering leaves, moss, and other woodland debris over the ribbed structure. Start from the bottom and work your way up, just like shingles on a roof. This arrangement will help direct rainwater away from the shelter and keep you dry. Remember, The thickness of your covering will determine how well your shelter holds up against the elements. So don't skimp on this step. Pile on the materials until you can't see daylight through the walls. After the covering, add more strength to your structure by weaving flexible branches in and out of your ribbed framework. This will not only add stability, but also create more surfaces for your covering material to cling to. But constructing a sturdy shelter is only half the battle. A well-built shelter that's visible from a distance is not ideal in a survival situation, hence the need for camouflage. Now you might be wondering, how do you make a shelter blend into its surroundings? Well, the answer lies in the materials you use and how you apply them. Using materials native to your location and arranging them in a natural-looking manner will make your shelter virtually invisible to the untrained eye. With the structure in place, it's time for the final crucial step, camouflage. In the next scene, we'll delve deeper into the art and science of effective camouflage, so stick around. Camouflage is the art of blending in with nature. And in a survival situation, it can be the difference between seen and unseen, between safety and danger. When it comes to camouflaging your shelter, the first thing to consider is local foliage. Look around you. What colors, shapes, and textures dominate your surroundings? These are the elements you want to replicate on your shelter. Collect leaves, branches, twigs, and grasses that blend in with the surrounding landscape. Now let's talk arrangement. The goal here isn't to simply pile these materials onto your shelter, but to arrange them in a way that mimics the natural environment. For instance, if the trees around you have branches that slope downward, arrange the branches on your shelter in a similar fashion. The more your shelter looks like part of the surrounding nature, the more effectively it can hide you. In addition to foliage, you can also use mud to camouflage your shelter. Mud works as a great base layer on your shelter, helping to further blend it into the environment. It's like painting a canvas, but instead of creating a masterpiece, you're creating invisibility. Remember, the key to effective camouflage is randomness. Nature rarely forms perfect patterns, so your shelter shouldn't either. Mix up the placement of leaves, branches, and other materials. Avoid creating straight lines or clear patterns. Now let's talk about maintenance. Camouflage isn't a one-time thing. Leaves wilt, branches break, and mud can wash away. Regularly check and update your camouflage to ensure it remains effective. And what about when you're inside the shelter? Be mindful of your movements. Sudden or large movements can draw attention even to the best camouflage shelter. Camouflage is a skill, and like any skill, it improves with practice. So, don't fret if your first attempt isn't perfect. With time and patience, you'll get the hang of it. And there you have it, a camouflage shelter that can keep you safe and hidden. It's not just about building a shelter, it's about becoming part of the landscape, becoming one with nature. That's the art of survival, that's the art of camouflage. Creating a camouflage shelter in the forest is a skill everyone should know. We've journeyed through a wealth of knowledge today, so let's revisit the steps we've taken to solidify our understanding. We began by understanding the crucial role camouflaging plays in survival. It's not just about concealing your presence from potential threats, but also about becoming a part of the forest, blending with its rhythm and beauty. Next, we dived into the art of picking the right spot. This isn't just about comfort and convenience, it's about safety, access to resources, and the ability to remain undetected. Remember, a good spot is a balance of all these factors. Then we moved on to the task of gathering materials. The forest is a treasure trove if you know where to look. From branches, leaves, to moss and vines, everything you need is right there. The key is to respect the forest while taking what you need. Constructing the shelter was our next big step. Remember, it's not about building a mansion, but a safe, functional, and hidden place to rest and recuperate. Keep it simple, sturdy, and sustainable. And finally, we camouflaged our shelter, making it a part of the forest. This is where your creativity comes in. Use the materials you've gathered to make your shelter blend seamlessly into its surroundings. With these skills, you're now prepared to survive in the forest with a camouflaged shelter. Stay safe and remember, the forest is your friend, not your enemy.